Okay guys, we're going to do the engine mount assembly into the tube here, and the JB welder's gone rock hard, left overnight, and as of the pillets have as well. It's that's actually perfect. So this now is going to have to go into here like so, and then you use that to push it up so that it basically goes up to that section there, and then once it's in, you then got to put the fins in, and they'll be glued in like so. Put that in the middle there. So we'll get this this motor mount glued in, and then I'll come back when that's all ready to go. Right guys, that's in nice and firm now, and you can see there the separation ring, whatever they call it, sticking out nice. Got no glue on the outside, so the next thing we're going to have to put these fins in. Unfortunately I can't use a fin alignment jig because this is in the way, and I'm still waiting for my other fin alignment tool to be 3D printed. So I'll get these glued in as straight as I possibly can, and then I'll come back to you hopefully when they're done. Okay guys, I've managed to get the fins on nice and straight and true, and they've got to have the fillets put on first, but I'll do all that later on in the finishing stages of it. The nozzle fits nicely on the back, but again I'm not going to glue that in yet because I want to paint that. So I'll just put that there. The next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make the second rocket booster. So I need that again. This time, instead of it being a ½ inch, actually, where is that's there. Now that goes on the outside, doesn't it, Robert? Yes, that goes on the outside of that. So don't need that. So we've got to mark, like I say, a ½ inch from here. I'm not going to bother drawing all the way around it. That's going to take the epoxy to there, like so. So about an inch down. Need to put the epoxy for the ring. I've got the live news on about the fires in Los Angeles. They're horrendous fires. Got a feel for them people. Loads of homes have been burnt down. Loads of people have been badly burnt. Not a good time over there at the moment. Poor guys. So I've got all that spread around there nicely. Pop that in through there, and then find our spacer hole, push that up, and I can feel it going buggy to there. I'll rotate it around while I can, holding that in place. Make sure I spread the glue around. So So that's now perfectly placed. And then we'll leave that to go off. And then we need the other centering rings. We've got to mark 1 inch. Right, it'll be cut out. Got to mark 1 inch from here. That's where one centering ring's going to go. And then the other centering ring just sits on the edge, right on the very end. So we'll get probably about 1/16 of an inch wrapped around that, so that we can put a fillet in. A fillet. I don't want to put a fillet this end of the tube. Well, I could do, but I've just got to be careful not to get too much epoxy down that bottom end there, because that's where the motor retaining ring's got to go, or will go. So that's that off. A lot of people that have built model rockets before will probably know that you need what they call wadding to go inside the rocket to protect everything from the blast from the motor when the charge goes off to blow the nose cone off. I won't be using that. I've got myself some Nomex fire resistant cloth which you wrap the shock cord and parachute into, so it stops it from getting damaged. So I test fit these quickly. Make sure that goes there, and then that one literally about 1/16 of an inch from the end. So I'll get them glued on, guys, and then I'll come back to you. So right, that's the second motor mount that is now done. Eventually this retainer ring here, once this is installed into the rocket tube, will get glued onto that like so, and then once that is on, the motor will go in there, and then that ring will hold it in place. Actually a good idea. I much prefer those than I do the old springs that they used to do, or still do. So that's that motor now sorted out effectively. So the next thing we've got to do is we've got to cut out our fin template, and we've got to start marking out where the fins go onto this basically. So I'll get this wiped down with some with a damp cloth, because we don't want to leave it as it is, because the glue won't stick to it. So if we get a damp cloth, it takes all that sheen off and makes it nicer for the wood to stick to. So I'll get this all marked up, and then I'll come back to you when that's all done. Hey, right guys, I've got the fin position piece of paper cut out, and I'm just going to pop that on there to stop it from moving. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the fin positions, if you can see that, with a pencil. Just go all the way around. Like so. Which gives you the position of all the fins have got to go then. And then take that off. If you can hear the Italian in the background, it is. I've got the fires that are going live in Los Angeles on. It's horrendous over there, it is. Okay, now I'll get a straight edge and then mark these up. I'll use a piece of right angle, which is too big to show on the screen, and then that'll give me a nice straight edge all the way up. and I'll come back to you when I've done it. Okay gang, as you can see that I've got all the lines marked all the way up the tube for the position of the fins, and you can see they're nice and straight. So now the next stage is to get the rest of the fins out of here and here and here, and then sand these down. Those have been sanded down. I've got to go and sand this one down, which will take me a couple of seconds, and then cut them to shape, and then I've got to cut these sticks. This is a bent. I've got to cut these into 1-inch strips, which will go into there basically, and then when I've glued those in, then I'll do the old paper covering scenario as well. Right guys, I've got these all cut and sanded now, and I've also cut that strip of wood. These have got to go into here. Now if I put these in now, I'm not going to be able to sand the contour of the wood down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the paper on like I would normally do, sand them into shape, and then these will be able to slide in between where the paper is, so the paper will still cover over this bit here. So I'll get one done quickly, and then I'll show you what I mean once it's done, because I've got to do it with all of these fins, not just one. I've got to do it with them all. So there you go guys, you can see there what I've done. I've covered the paper first, rounded off the edges, and then the hole where this originally was meant to go is obviously still exposed, and push it in and the paper covers it, so it makes a nice finish on there basically. So I do that with all the other fins, all 8 of them, or 7 more I should say, and then yeah. Right guys, I've got all the fins now all sanded, and I've put the strakes, whatever you want to call them, in there. They're all glued in as well. And these dark bits that you can see is where I've gone around all the leading edges and the trailing edges of the fins with super glue. What that does is it seals the wood, but it also seals the paper edges as well. Even though they're sticky down, it also gives them a bit of extra protection. Now what I'm going to do now, I'll mark the tube here, and it says you've got to mark it 3 inches up, so I've got to stick all of these fins on now in line with these tube lines here as best as I possibly can. And then once the big ones are on, I've then got to put the little ones on, the smaller, on the lower section. So you'll have one fin there, but the smaller one will go there, not here. It actually goes there, like so. So I'll put these fins on first. I'm just going to tack them on with super glue, contact adhesive, and then they'll have fillets put on later on for stiffiness. So I'll be back to you when I've done that, and I'll see you in a minute. Hey guys, I've moved from where I was to give myself a little bit more room. I've set up my bench, still at home, and I've made myself a rocket stand here to put the rocket on, because I need to do the fillets on the fins, and it's going to be easier for me to rotate the rocket around to do the fins instead of trying to hold it. But what I need to do first is I need to attach the booster section to the back end of the main rocket itself and get them lined up like so, so I can do both fillets on the front and the back fins as well. Then I'll have to do these ones afterwards, because they're positioned 45 degrees opposite to the main fins. But to do that, I need to get this coupler inside here, and it's alright on this one, but it's going to be glued into this. But this section here that goes into the back of this is pretty tight. Now I don't know whether it's the inside of here, whether it's got some glue inside the actual booster itself or what, but I'm going to try and sand this down a little bit, and also the inside of there as well, and hopefully I'll be able to get it to fit a little bit better. And I'm going to use my electric Uji flip, like a Dremel kind of tool it is, but it's a battery operated one. So where did I put that? Here it is. Got a little file on this, so I'm going to go into this. I've clearly got some epoxy inside there, and I need this to fit in really loose, because obviously when the booster pushes it up, it's going to have to blow the back end out. So I'll keep working on that, guys, and then I'll come back when I've got it to fit nice and snug. Right guys, I've managed to get the booster section to slide in nice and easily, as you can see. So when it comes to the charge blowing, that should come up quite easily. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to glue this into the booster section, and then I can start doing the fillets. Okay guys, I've got the coupler now glued in. I'm using just normal wood glue, although it's Gorilla wood glue, and this stuff goes off really fast. I'd say within 2 minutes it's not usable. So, but I'm also going to be using that for my fillets, which you will see in a bit. So I'm going to join this onto here now, and as you can see, it slots in and comes up really easily. So that's really good. I'm going to place the rocket back in the cradle like so, and I'm going to use the wood glue to form a fillet along each of the fins, on the main fins first, on the big fins, and then once I've done those, I'll go over to the smaller fins. I'm going to use a set of gloves for this, because I'll scrape the fillets smooth with my fingers. So I'll get those going in a second, guys. I'm just going to go make myself a coffee because I'm parched, and I'll be back in a minute. Right guys, I'm going to use the Gorilla Glue, the wood glue, to form a fillet. On a rocket this small, you don't need to be too particular with the size of the fillets, but on a bigger rocket you'd need to use something like an epoxy to create a larger fillet. I'm just going to squeeze the glue in between the fin and the body tube on both sections. Get a paper towel because it's going to create a mess, it always does. And I'm just going to pop that in there like so, and I'm just going to get the finger and just squeeze it down like so. And do the same with the other side. Right guys, the fillets have now all been put in place and smoothed out. I'm just going to let those dry. They're going to take a while to dry because obviously it's just solid glue. If anybody's never bought this Gorilla Wood glue, I tell you what, you need to get it. It is good stuff. It dries pretty quick and it's really strong as well. So it's better than your normal white wood glue that you would get, but it does do a very good job. And with the actual nib being pointed into a V as well, it allows you to get right into the between the fillets and the body tube. Now, while they're going off, one thing I want to look at is this nose cone here is really loose, and it shouldn't be like that. That'll just drop out. So what they recommend is to get some masking tape and wrap masking tape around the neck. I'm not going to use masking tape. I'm going to use my faithful micro pore tape, and I'm just going to put one strip around it for now, because once this stuff is on and it's dried, it's really difficult to get off. So we shouldn't have any issues trying to get it off, let's put it that way. Just carefully cut so it's a perfect length all the way around, and try it again. No, it's still really loose, so I'm going to give it a second one, but this time I'm going to start on the opposite side so that a solid piece of tape goes over the top of the join. So I'll start it this side instead, and then go all the way up to the edge of the actual tube itself, the nozzle itself. I'm about a 1/16 of an inch away from the lip that pushes down on the cardboard tube. On the end where I started it, there it is. And cut it again. Try it again. And that's now really tight. In fact, it's too tight. So I'm going to have to take some of that off and reduce the amount that's on there. So I'll take about half of it off. Try again. That's better. That's perfect. That is actually a nice friction fit now. So there's no possibility of that coming off just by dropping off, because you're meant to hold the rocket upside down, and if the nose drops off it's too loose, but at the same time you don't want it too tight. But that's perfect, so when the charge goes off that will blow that off. So I'll trim that now, because it's going over the lug where the parachute attaches. I'll just trim that, and then that'll be the nose cone sorted, ready for the parachute. Right guys, the fillets are near enough dry, but I need to add some more filler because in some of the fillets, I don't know if you can see those, there's air bubbles that have cropped up, but it's starting to get a bit funky in here now with the fumes and whatnot from the different glues I'm using. So safety first, I'm going to wear a respirator from now on to keep my lungs safe, should we say. So here we go. The whole point of putting the filler on is to spread the load from the fins across the whole of the fuselage or the rocket. It gives it more pliability then. I'm going to be using an Etch primer. That's mainly to fill the spiral joints than anything, but the Etch primer will help fill holes that may occur in the fillets as well. So they're all done. So keep that straight and level. Unfortunately, I've got them on here as well. Just going to let that dry now. Shouldn't take that long because it's a thinner layer. And once that's done, I can start prepping it for paint. Now let me take this thing off. That's better. I can breathe now, ironically. Right, there's not a lot left to do on this model. I want to try and get it all in one video, if I can, including the painting. Now the model is meant to be green, and there's no way in hell I'm painting this rocket green, because the model club where I'm flying them at in the Midland Rocketry Club is mainly all fields, and I just know for a fact that this will just disappear in the grass. So I'm going to be painting it completely red for this rocket. This other one that I built before this is also going to be painted red and white. The bigger rocket's undecided yet, but I'm currently working on this while I'm waiting for this to dry as well, off camera. I'm just sanding down the fillets on this and making them nice and smooth using a file and some sanding pads, and it's coming out really nice. And then I'm going to be priming this with Etch primer to get it all ready for its top coat of paint. And then I'll be doing the same with this. Once I've got the fillets all dry, I've got some scale detailing which I need to add to it, which is just strips of wood. Get it all sanded down, Etch prime it, sand it down, prime it, and then coat it in a top coat of paint. But yeah, it's going to be looking good. The booster rocket is set, and I've got this to glue on the back of there. Sorry, that glues onto the back of there, get it right. And I've got this motor retainer here, which I've got to glue onto this section here. But I'll be using JB Weld to put that on because of the heat resistance from it, and that's what will hold the motor in on the back of this. And then obviously this bit goes over the top like so. So there's not a lot left to do, just got to wait for this glue to dry. It's the boring part of building model rockets, but yeah, hopefully we should be getting towards the end of this video. Hope I didn't bore you guys. This is my first rocket build. This is my first rocket build, and like I said in the beginning, I want you to follow along with me in this venture, getting in my L1 and L2 certification. So like I say, I've got a big rocket. I've got two more rockets here at the moment. I've got a big 3-inch diameter rocket that's ironically called the doorknob. I've got a 2.6 diameter 5 foot tall rocket, and like I say, tomorrow I've got my L1 rocket, which is even bigger. So yeah, let's crack on and try and get things finished, shall we?